Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, and welcome to the Proactive Caregiving Podcast. As a CPA with over 20 years as an industry accountant, Jessica stepped away from the corporate world to become a full-time caregiver for her mother. Having learned invaluable lessons along the way, she is now here to share those with you and to invite you to join her on this caregiver's journey. Here is your host, Jessica Cannon.
Hello, everybody. I am so glad you're here with me today. I am the Proactive Caregiver, and I specialize in educating others on how to be proactive by empowering you, the caregiver. If you cannot take care of yourself, then you cannot take care of your loved one. Self-care has become quite the buzzword lately. What it means to one person may be entirely different to another. But regardless of what it means to you, part of being able to take care of ourselves is making sure to have time for adequate restoration. And just so that we're on the same page here, the word restoration in the dictionary means the act of returning something to a former owner, place, or condition. In the Bible, restoration is always in abundance. When something is restored, it is always better than it was to begin with. God's promise to us is a better way, a better life, a better future for ourselves and our loved ones. Without restoration, we run the risk of not being there for our loved ones because we become ill or terribly distracted by the world all around us. Restoration does not just happen because we want it to happen. We have to be active participants in our restoration to not only invite God into our lives, regardless of where you are in your journey of faith, but to initiate the restorative process in the first place. So many caregivers fall prey to the idea that they don't have time or they don't have the money to commit to self-care. This is usually why caregivers become ill or, God forbid, pass away before their loved ones do. They burn the candle at both ends until burnout becomes a point of no return. So why am I telling you this? Because before I left the corporate world, I myself was avoiding restoration. I did not make time for it in my busy schedule. I was going forward, not looking back, and pushing my body beyond its limitations. So while I tell you about this and kind of give you a bit of an update of where I'm at and my recovery, I want you to think about what kind of things you would like to have more of in your life as self-care and what kind of things maybe you're currently doing that you can do a little bit more of. So a couple years ago, actually several years ago, after I had my second child, I started out having a little bit of issues with my lower back. Common, pregnancy does it to many women. I had 2 discs on my lower back that started to be compressed. Not a big deal. But then I got into a level of work that required me to work days that were 10, 12-hour work days. That month-end close cycle, quarter-end close, year-end audit, all of this, it just put a lot more demand. And I pushed my body past limitations. I pushed past those indications that I should stop and take a breath or walk and the very least. And ironically, one of the companies I worked at actually had an in-house gym. But the attitude of the bosses in our department is, if you have time to be in the gym, then you must not have enough work to do. You can imagine how that goes. So working out and maintaining the little bits of circulation, good circulation in my body after sitting for so long versus just getting a change of scenery and getting away from the computer and the spreadsheets and stepping away. It's one thing I didn't do. And on top of that, you have companies, and I've been in several of them, that have these lavish coffee bars so they can keep their employees caffeinated, awake, and productive. I fell in that category as well. It's hard to realize this when you're in that mode, when you're in that I've got to do, I have to do, I should do. And I could sit there and tell you I said that so many times and dismissed my own health. There was always some reason why I had to do for someone else. Well, we fast forward a couple more years, and just before about 2010, I had my first cortisone injection. That was the Band-Aid, basically. It gave me about 2 more years before I had to go back, because at that point I wasn't changing my lifestyle. That was just the quick fix so I could continue on the path that I was on. So by 2012, I had my second cortisone injection. Again, another Band-Aid. So many years went by when, within a year of getting that second cortisone shot, things started shifting with Mom. And that part-time schedule of her care and my care started to really kick in. But yet I still forced myself, and I still pushed past the pain. I started pushing past the exhaustion. Then this last year, during COVID, I got a little overzealous, and I decided it was time to add some free weights to my exercise routine. As if yoga and Pilates had not been good to my body already, they were the perfect, and still have been the perfect, stress relieving and even muscle toning and just relaxation altogether. I decided to add some weights to my routine. And during that time, the one exercise that kind of stopped it all was Russian twists. I don't know why they call it this, but Russian twist with a 25-pound dumbbell was enough to compress my discs the rest of the way. So all these years of fighting with sciatic nerve pain and this lower back pain and trying to do things that would avoid throwing my back out, that was the kicker. That was the final and last straw of this camel's back. So as months continue to go by, there was no amount of icing, there was no amount of downtime. And that was when I realized, wow, as a caregiver, if my body is not functioning and if I'm down so much more the time than necessary, then what does that mean for my loved ones? I'm not capable of doing what they need me to do or what I want to do for them. So I finally decided to get another cortisone injection. Since 2012, I had changed my routine just enough, but coming in 2020, that changed. So this last year I had not only my third, but my fourth cortisone injection. And it was the reality check that said, this isn't working, no more Band-Aids, you know what you have to do. But I fought it because what I had to do was go through a very invasive surgery. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to believe there were other things. And here it is, My mind starts going all over the place. This is one of those mind over matter. I can heal myself. Well, instead of trying to heal myself, I kind of made things a little worse. During the time period that I was waiting for insurance to approve surgery, I was still on the fence and still trying to convince myself that at the very last hour I could still say, nope, I don't want it. I'm not going to do it. I don't need it. But I was doing more exercises, and in the middle of one of the exercises one evening, I heard there was an audible pop and intense pain that just flooded my whole lower back muscle region. Just incredible. From that point on, I couldn't walk normal. I was limping. I wasn't able to sit on the commode to relieve myself or relieve my bowels without pain. I wasn't able to drive more than 10, 15 minutes without being in pain. I couldn't be in the most tender, intimate moments with my husband without pain. And I was still trying to convince myself that I could heal. I can just put my mind where I needed to place it, focus on something, meditate on this, and I could heal myself. And it was just unreal until I finally got the approval for the surgery, got it set up. And the very first thing I heard as I was coherent enough post-op, with all the anesthesia finally wearing off, was one of the doctors telling me, your disc had ruptured. And it was unreal hearing that. And I thought, oh my gosh, here I was thinking I could heal myself, and how crazy that sounded when there was no amount of healing I could have done for a ruptured disc. So now I'm telling you, self-care is important, extremely important, but the type of self-care is what makes the difference. So as I'm now 3 weeks out post-op, and I have been forced to slow down. I have become the care recipient now, not so much the caregiver. And it has been one of those moments that every time I do something, whether it's moving from the bed, so delicately positioning myself so I can lift my upper body up and then actually get up just to go to the restroom, my mind thinks, I go to that place with mom. I wonder if this is what mom was experiencing when she was struggling to get up off the couch to go to the bathroom. And then I had the moments, speaking of bathroom. Now, for those of you who don't know me on a personal level, I'm very close to celebrating our 20th year anniversary. And in the 20 years of marriage, my husband and I have had a closed door bathroom policy. There was only one time in our marriage that he actually was present with me in the bathroom, and that was giving birth to our second son. Going back and forth between a yoga ball and a shower and the bed, and eventually back to the bathroom to walk around and try to use the restroom. And that in itself, with all the commotion going on, it just never fazed me, because there were nurses and there were doctors. There were just so many people in the room already. My private areas were just all out on display. And the one time that I never thought about trying to hide myself or needing privacy. So now here it is, 20 years later, and that closed door policy has not been, I don't want to say violated, but it has not been broken. And now I'm the care recipient, and now I'm also in that position of vulnerability. And I realized before I even left the hospital to come home, and one of the first times going to the restroom with my husband helping me, that I had to have him wipe me And it was unreal in my mind, thinking, oh my gosh, this is not happening. I'm too young for this. I shouldn't be in this situation. And then yet again, my mind immediately went back to, I wonder if this is how mom felt the first time I had to wipe her. A level of embarrassment and the feeling of not being able to do something for yourself, that lack of independence. Wow. So as days continued to go by, every time I needed help to stand, I needed help to go up and down stairs, in and out of the bed. I even needed help the first few days to be fed, because just the act of lifting my head far enough pulled my lower stomach muscles and the lower back muscles to the point that I couldn't do it without being in that post-op pain. The procedure was an anterior and a posterior, which means they had to open me up from the lower abdomen in the front, close me up, turn me over somehow. I really want to know how they did this. Then they had to go in from the back and finish the rest of the procedure. And at first I thought, I can look at this as a cool way. I thought the metal or the material that was going to go in my body, I don't want that. I don't want this foreign object in my body. And then when it became to the point where I wanted the pain to stop, then I thought, okay, how do I spin this? How do I turn this into something positive? Okay, so I'm going to be like Iron Woman or Bionic Woman, or I'm going to be stronger than I ever was before. And it just kept me in a state of limbo. And then again, I went back to, I wonder if this is how mom felt when they had to put her defibrillator in. Looking at the scars and feeling mutilated. And I know that sounds probably a little bit more exaggerated, because you're looking at fresh, at least I was looking at fresh incisions that had some bruising, and the bruising was going to go away. But on first glance, looking in the mirror, seeing the front and the back eventually, it was kind of like, my body's changed. Well, of course it is. I now have 2 vertebrae that have been fused together. And my mind was what I was seeing on the outside, not so much what I was feeling on the inside. And I looked at myself and I had these few moments of pity. So I kind of threw myself this little pity party, like, oh, I'm not the same anymore. I'm broken. And I thought, no, where did that thought come from? I'm not broken. I've been fixed, quite literally fixed. I can always get a tattoo to cover those scars. I can always wear clothing that covers it up. No one will ever see those wounds, aside of my husband. But then after a while I thought, you know what? These are badges of honor. These are a survival scar in a sense. And then again, I wonder if that's what mom thought about her scars from her cesarean pregnancies or the deliveries. So a lot of this experience has been, one, has obviously forced me to slow down. That has been one of my mantras this year, to be still. And yet I couldn't just be still. Now I have to be, because some of those movements still are a little tender. But on the other side of it, feeling the pain and realizing that God uses everything to teach us one way or the other. And through my pain, I've thought of mom so many times on how or why or when the moment she was able or not able to do things. And yet she too would force herself and push herself until she couldn't push anymore. And that was a really big reality check for me, to practice what I preach, basically, and to remind myself of the need for self-care and restoration. So this idea of adding free weights to my yoga routine is gone. I do not need weights. My body weight is more than enough. And when I'm able to return to a normal regimen where I have my meditation in the morning and I have my yoga and then I begin my day, I don't need the physical weights. And for me, those physical weights also was another example of the difference of a yoke. So many years before, I would hear about allowing Jesus's yoke because his yoke is light. His burden is light. And I could not understand that for the life of me. I just thought, I'm in control. I'm the one that is pushing my life. I'm the one that's doing all of these things. And if I work hard enough, then I can make things happen. But that's the difference between his yoke and Satan's yoke. We cannot be caregivers and go in this direction of self-reliance because we can't do this alone. And I have had to accept this. I cannot be the sole person that gives and never sits and takes time to receive. I've now been receiving so many blessings every day, seeing my husband care for me as he does so much, and trying to remind him on the flip side of burnout is just ironic because I know where it leads. And once our bodies start to break down, what do we have left for our loved ones? How do we continue to push after that? So instead of trying to get those coveted abs, I'm having to accept that I have to have some downtime. I have to unplug more often. I have to have real restoration, which also means restorative sleep because that's when my body is going to be doing the most amount of repair right now. And so I'm going to have to just find different ways to look at things. So before the procedure took place, I found myself saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't. My mind was in a very negative place. And then I realized, I keep talking about what I can't. I'm manifesting things I don't really want. So then I started thinking, okay, change of mindset. Another form of self-care. I'm going to only talk about what I can do at this point. I may not be able to walk, but I can still write. I may not be able to stand for very long, but I can sit and enjoy whatever it is before me, whether it's under my meditation tree or it's spending time with family and watching something together. This change of mindset is what's helping me get through these days of recovery. And I'm glad that with each day I am stronger and I have easier times to get up and around and move more. But I also want this to be somewhat of a reminder that being busy, or an acronym of busy, being under Satan's yoke, chasing that corporate carrot of success, chasing whatever we tell ourselves that we have to do, we should do, we need to do, and not allowing ourselves time to restore is only cutting our time short. And it is only, in a sense, hurting our loved ones, because if you're not there for them because you're sick, then it's a lose-lose situation. Restoring my relationship with God seems to happen time and time again. And it's these moments like this that even through pain, they are the reminders that my focus fell off of him and went on to something in this world that is not necessarily more important, but it's something that distracted me. So to help myself refocus and restore, I'm trying to find the positives. I'm trying to do the things we have suggested with others, finding the moments of the gratitude prayers. I'm trying to find the moments of even taking those daily power naps. I'm trying to prep as much as I can, but then acknowledging when I am exhausted and that listening to my body, because sometimes being that better listener also includes listening to our bodies. I also want to thank those who have sent so many prayers and continue to pray for my speedy recovery, and the beautiful flowers and the encouraging words of moving forward and not giving up. I appreciate every single one of them because it has been a struggle. It has been a learning lesson, but I know there is a bright side to all of this. And I know that if I just learn finally once and for all to be still and know that He is God, I am in His hands. He's got this, and I should not have to worry. I will be stronger for it in the long run. Thank you for joining in with me today. I hope this gave you a little food for thought. I just wanted to stop in and say thanks for prayers, and don't forget your self-care. Until next time, be proactive. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about proactive caregiving and to hear other episodes of this podcast, please visit www.jessicalizelcannon.com. This podcast is produced by Cannon Light Media, LLC, www.cannonlightmedia.com. Music provided by Chris Paradise.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.